Hello folks, and welcome back to my channel for another YouTube video. This one features yet another Valentine's card from my little Valentine's card series I have going on here on my channel. And I was really struggling to find some inspiration for this week's video, and luckily good old Toby Toad came up on my Instagram feed when I was looking for something to recreate, and I was just so inspired by this picture. I thought it'd be a perfect design for a little Valentine's card, so I decided to try my best to recreate it. So I'm using a different stamp company, which I've never featured on this channel before, which is Avery, Elle, and I'm using their Market Stand stamp set and their Peekaboo Summer Pals stamp set. So their Peekaboo Summer Pals have like these kind of ocean animals, and I believe what is supposed to be a crab I'm actually using as a frog. So I'm using the crab body, I guess, as my little frog body, and I'm also using these little flippered hands for my little froggy feet. I also have this Market Stand stamp, as well as this little jar and this little kind of picture of flowers, because I thought it would kind of go with my Valentine's theme. I would also like to give a special thank you to my mom for giving me the idea to use this crab image as a little froggy image. And I am using Gina K Amalgam Ink to stamp out my images here onto 90-pound cardstock. So I am also going to be stamping this little kissing booth sign onto my little kissing booth, because that's what I want it to be. And I'm also stamping like extra flies. I'm also stamping a little fly in my jar, so it looks like, you know, my little frog has been taking payments for his little kisses that he's offering. Alright, so I'm also taking this little heart. It is from the Push Your stamp set from Fawn, but really any heart stamp will work. And I am just trying to replicate this little heart sign that was on Toby Toad's booth. And to better replicate that, I am first going in and just penciling in the words "only one bug," and then I'm taking my Copic Multiliner in 0.5 thickness, but any thickness will work, skinnier the better really. And I'm just going over that, and then I will erase my pencil later. And now I'm going to be starting my coloring. So I'm using my Copic markers for the coloring for this video. So first I'm coloring in my frog image, and I'm using YG67, YG63, and YG03 for my little froggy here. I am initially laying down my darkest and then going to my lightest. So my darkest here is the YG67, then the YG63, and then I'm going over with my lightest, which is YG03. And then I'm going to go back in with my darkest after I have a flat wash of my colors laid down. And I'm going to add some stippling texture to my frog, just to add more interest and make him more like a frog and less like it's supposed to be a crab, if you know what I mean. And then I'm also using that same coloring combination and technique on the little flipper hands. Also taking my Copic Multiliner again, and I'm going to add two little lines to my froggy face to give him little nostrils and make him more like a frog. Next, I am just coloring this jar lid as well as this watering can, and I'm using some warm grays for that. So I'm using W7, W5, and W3, once again darkest to lightest and getting a good blend. I'm also using some light blues and coloring in my little mason jar here to make it look like it is made out of glass. And I'm using this pink combination for quite a few elements on this card because it is a Valentine's card. And it is kind of a peachy color, and I think it really works with my reference image. So I'm using R22, R20, and R12 for that. Once again, lightest to darkest, and I'm taking these colors onto some of the banners, the hearts that I have stamped, which I don't end up using, but feel free to use them on your own card, as well as like the little bottom half of my kissing booth here, and some of my flowers. I'm also using this purple combination, which is just BV04 and BV02. Here I'm also using a different pink combination, so I'm using R85, R83, and R81. And once again, I'm just bringing those colors onto some more flowers and hearts and extra little elements. So here I am taking in some of those greens, which I was using before. So I'm using YG63, YG61, and YG03. And I'm coloring in some of these leaves and some of the grass that I had forgotten to color earlier. So here I am using some of these browns, so I'm using E31 and E35, and I'm just using it for the side posts as well as the top sign on my kissing booth. And then I'm going to be using some of the pink combinations I had used before, which is R22, R20, and R12 for the bottom half of my kissing booth. My reference image did have different colors. The top portion was pink, and then the bottom portion of the kissing booth was blue, but I didn't really include blue into my color palette here, so I just kind of had to improvise with that a little bit. But feel free to color this whatever you want it to color. And unfortunately, the footage of me coloring the bottom half of this kissing booth was just non-existent because I forgot to record, so I apologize for that. I would like to give a special thank you to Toby Toad for being my inspiration, but for also allowing me to use some of the images in this card video. I have the Instagram account linked below if you'd like to go check him out and follow him. I've been a fan for almost 2 years now, I believe, and it brings me so much happiness to see this little toad in these miniature scenes on my timeline. It's so heartwarming. Anyways, back to the card. I have this square here. It is cut from the Lawn Fawn Stitched Square Frame Dies. It is the largest one, and the square here is cut out of 120-pound white cardstock. So I taped it to my mat, and I'm going to be using some ink blending. So initially I'm going over the area where I want my grass to meet my sky, and I'm just using this ink blending brush and some worn lipstick, Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going over that area because I will be using stencils and I don't want any white space to be left behind. So I'm just lightly going in this area because I don't want it super pigmented, so that when my pink meets my green grass I get brown. I just don't want any white space. Next, I am taping down my stencil where I want my grass to be, and I'm using the Grassy Hillside stencil from Lawn Fawn. And I'm going to be blending in using some more Distress Oxide ink. So I'm going in initially with Twisted Citron, which is this very bright kind of green color, which I felt like really matched some of the green tones I had in my little toad that I was coloring with my Copic markers. And then I'm bringing in Mowed just to kind of add some more dimension and make it look a little bit darker, add some interest to my grass pieces here. So now that my grass is done, I am just kind of protecting where I'm touching with my fingers with some printer paper, and I'm going to be ink blending my sky. So I'm using that same worn lipstick shade, and I'm using an ink blending tool with kind of a foam pad, and I'm making sure I'm really pouncing on that color near the top so that I can try to use just one color and get this ombre effect that goes from darkest to lightest. So I'm just initially laying down a really packed color at the top, and then I'm using like circle motions to kind of blend it down into that initial little pink layer that I had put down before, where the grass meets the sky. And now that my sky has kind of dried a little bit, I am taking these little Delicata ink pads and I'm swiping them across the sky. They are these really tiny ink cubes, which I think really allows this technique to work. And I am just kind of swiping them back and forth across the sky. The Delicata inks are very shimmery and very pretty. This is the pink shimmer shade, and I feel like it's just a good way to add texture to my sky, and it's different from what I'm normally doing. I'm also taking a white shimmer shade from Delicata as well and adding that to my grass at the bottom just because I felt like it was also needing some love, and it just adds like a really cool aspect and dimension to my card. Alright, so next I already have this pre-cut and scored card base that is pink cardstock, and I also have this cut square from Lawn Fawn paper. It is the really rainbow Petite pack, I believe, and I am just mounting this little square onto my card base with the ATG gun. And next I am just mounting my frame onto my card base here, and I am using the Fawn liquid glue pen just to kind of get it lined up correctly, and I have a bit of wiggle room in case I don't get it on straight. Next, I am just mounting this square piece onto my card base with the ATG gun. So off camera, I just kind of laid out my images and figured out the positioning that I liked, and also kind of referenced back to my reference images here. So I am just putting things together using a mixture of liquid glue and some foam squares. So here I am gluing my little froggy dude behind my little kissing booth, so it looks like he's working there. And then I'm going to glue his little hands on top of that and the little jar, and just kind of put my kissing booth together, and then I can mount it onto my card base. With my kissing booth kind of assembled here, I'm going to mount it onto my card base using some of these thin foam squares. I like how they are thin because it's not a whole lot of dimension, but it still kind of stands out and places more emphasis on this piece. So yeah, of course you can use whatever method you want to glue it down, but I thought the thin foam squares would be kind of cool. And I'm also using those thin foam squares again to mount this little bucket full of flowers, I guess. And here I'm just stamping these little fly trail stamps onto my background just to add something else, because I felt like the background was a little lacking. And you can find these in almost any of the Fawn stamp sets that include insects of some sort. And I am using the Simon Says stamp Hollyhock ink. It's just a perfect shade of pink, I think, for this. So I'm just adding a few here and there. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp some of these little flies from the same market stand stamp set from Avery Elle onto the background as well, just to add some flies and more interest to my card. So as you can see here, I did add hearts to my background, but I will later cover them up. Just because I didn't really like them. They didn't add what I wanted to the card, if that makes sense. But anyways, here I am taking some clear glossy accents and I'm adding that on top of my little jar element here, just to make it look like it is actually made out of glass. And I do add it on top of these little heart elements as well as the bug elements, but I'm going to cover my hearts up later, so just kind of ignore that, you know. It's a process. I was really fighting myself with this card. I was just never happy with anything until the very end when it was finished, and I was like, you know what, I guess it doesn't look that bad. So here I am adding in these little polymer clay hearts on top of the hearts that I didn't like. They are from the Paper Rose Studio, I believe, the Heart Shaker Mix. And I'm only adding pink ones just because I thought they looked nice, but feel free to add whatever ones you want, you know. And then I'm going in and adding glossy accents on top just to add some more shine and more interest to my little hearts. And then I'm going to add some gel pen and some liquid pearls onto my flowers just for some extra details. And that about finishes it up for this card today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my stuff, subscribe, like the video, comment, share with your friends. It's all a great way to support the channel. I also have an Instagram down below. You can follow me there. I also have Toby Toad's Instagram down below if you want to go follow him. I highly recommend it. It's just such a nice little Instagram page. And just thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day.